Before I start, I just want to point this out in case this video gets demonetized. Bound is an R-rated movie which you can watch for free with ads on Peacock, Tubi, Pluto TV, FilmRise, or FlixFling. There are also numerous uncensored clips up on YouTube that have been there for years. So a video about this movie with all the nudity and swearing removed should, very well, be fine with advertisers. I mean, YouTube wouldn't want to be hypocritical considering where you can rent this film uncensored. Many of you know The Asylum because of their Sharknado series, but many more of you know of them because of their Mockbusters. The Asylum's bread and butter largely came from doing shameless knockoffs of Hollywood productions. Traditionally, it was either a big action movie, a big fantasy movie, or a big sci-fi movie. However, in 2015, a movie franchise started that was none of these: 50 Shades of Grey. So the Asylum decided to dip their toes in and make the first 50 Shades mockbuster, Bound. 50 Shades of Grey is Christian Grey, while this is Ryan Black. I guess they went with Bound because 50 Shades of Black was already taken. Bound is a 2015 erotic thriller from director Jared Cohn, not to be confused with the Wachowskis' Bound from 1996. The movie opens with a bang. Yes! Yes! Yeah! It's not what you think. He just got a triple word score in Scrabble. Okay, really? It's a couple having some fudge. If you ever want to see Cordelia from Buffy the Vampire Slayer's boobs, you only have to wait until 22 seconds into the movie. Apparently, this sex was terrible. Michelle lies about an emergency at the office so she can get the dude to leave. Michelle is a very successful real estate broker. Look at her house. She must be incredibly good at her job. Oh, her dad owns the company. There's a big board meeting and apparently, things aren't going so well at the company. They lost a lot of money the past few years, and there's the possibility that they might be bought out by another company. Michelle thinks that she can save everybody's job. She's trying to show a proposal to save the company, but can't deal with aggressive bald guy. Walter, her father, thinks they may have no choice but to sell, but he really doesn't want to. So he tells Preston to crunch some numbers while he crunches on those bagels. Walter tells Michelle she's going to have to do better if she wants to stay at the big kids' table. So she walks home in slow motion and has several gallons of wine. Her daughter, Dara, came home from sports practice, and they go out for dinner. Oh look, more wine. 5 seconds after they sit down, and creepy guy is at the bar staring at her. Michelle senses danger, so she skips out without paying. She drops Dara off and goes back to pay the bill at the restaurant. Right after paying...
Hey, don't go.
Sir, you're the whole reason I left in the first place. He introduces himself as Ryan and plays up to her one weakness: booze.
Have a drink with me.
He manages to get her back to the, bondage and smoking lounge of the restaurant. They exchange awkward small talk. After getting her to smoke, he immediately makes several moves. That's right, kids. One puff of the devil's lettuce, and all inhibitions go right out the window. She tries to leave, and he gives her his number. The next day, she puts on a PowerPoint presentation. But the board is, bored. Later that night, old one-pump George stops at her house with dinner. Michelle has more wine.
Got you something.
Oh, thank goodness, it's just earrings. George is a thoughtful, caring boyfriend, but because he's absolutely dreadful in the sack, Michelle dumps him and he leaves. The next day, Michelle is doing business things. She decides to give Ryan a call. Wow, I'm surprised it's not a 555 number. Before she can do that, she gets a call from a portfolio manager. She strikes up a deal and he agrees. Hold on a second. They just showed that it's 4:20, and she's talking about meeting for lunch today at 2.
2 o'clock. Yes.
Ryan calls her back. He convinces her to stop by before her lunch meeting. So instead of going to the meeting that might save her father's company, she goes to see Creepy McCreepface. The friend's house is Terrell Owens. Apparently she sold him this house, so they have a history. Ryan is just hanging out at a photo shoot? This whole thing is confusing. Why is an ex-football player having a catered photo shoot at his place for 3 people? Terrell's working at his acting chops.
We gotta hang out again, bro. That night has to be relived and relived.
Now that image is stuck in my head. Thanks, movie. Michelle has no personal agency and just does whatever she's told. He then asks her some seriously invasive questions.
What makes you wet?
I don't know, showers, swimming pools, when I'm washing the dishes and the faucet sprays water off a spoon. Terrell Owens is trying to get them good and drunk, so he sends them over some shots. That lunch meeting Michelle set up with Jesse Aaron is immediately discarded when Ryan makes her antsy and pantsy. She calls her assistant and tells her to make up an excuse as to why she had to cancel. It was 2 p.m. and now it's instantly night. She takes him on a tour of her office. He then demands to see her dad's office. I'm not sure what she's expecting. After some prodding, he cons her into doing naughty things. He puts her on her dad's desk and, no! Her father is going to be really upset when he watches the security footage. He then takes her to the secret underground S&M club. Mr. Angryface isn't pleased. They go back to his place, which is pretty much what you would expect. Generic sex dungeon. Look, I'm not ashamed to admit I'm a connoisseur of movies that aired on Cinemax around 2 a.m. So I say this with full authority. This is the least sexy sex I've ever seen. Yes, Charisma Carpenter is very pretty. What they're doing is about as erotic as a doctor's visit. I can't show you, obviously, but he finishes and just kind of gets up and leaves. Like he just finished doing a housework. Michelle gets a call from her dad.
Why does my office smell like Axe body spray and house keys?
He yells at her, but she makes up a big lie to cover up what she's been doing.
I must be really pissed off that I blew off that investors meeting today.
It's cliche, but you think? In any other company, she would be fired, so fired. The next day, Michelle makes another in a series of terrible decisions. Michelle brings Ryan to the big fundraiser meeting, where she's supposed to apologize for missing yesterday's meeting. He gives her this, and you know where she puts it. Oh, I'm sure he's not going to turn this on at the worst possible time. Yes, turn the thing on while her father tells this tearful story about her grandfather's battle with Alzheimer's. As if this guy wasn't hateable enough. They go to the bathroom, and at some point she has to realize that this is bad, right? He messes up her makeup and doesn't let her fix it. They run into Preston and Jesse Aaron, the guy she blew off yesterday.
In the bathroom together?
No, what gave you that idea? She tries to apologize, but Ryan makes it really difficult. I'm pretty sure they can hear the motor. And they can see that nasty welt, too. Please, can someone just launch him off the balcony? Despite nearly losing her job, Michelle goes online to watch bondage tutorials. This is like S&M for boomers. Michelle goes to see her father. She's having trouble in those heels. Since Walter's the only one with any sense, he did a background check on Ryan.
A drug-dealing car thief in front of our colleagues? What were you thinking?
Anyone else? Again, fired, so fired.
You had sex with someone in the bathroom at the Alzheimer's fundraiser.
Was that bad? Later that day, Michelle does some business and is able to get things done that are relevant to the plot. She does some real estate voodoo and gets an amazing deal. To celebrate, more unsexy sex. This is getting really uncomfortable. What's the safe word? After the boring debauchery, he kicks her out. She then goes to the club to engage in, She runs into one of the girls, who gives her a good warning about Ryan. After her naughty day, she arrives home to find Ryan in bed with her daughter. I guess this was the bad stuff that the other girl was trying to warn her about. She throws him out, and they both realize that they've been manipulated. The next day, she gets a text that no parent ever wants to receive. Oh, dear sweet baby Jesus, that's just brutal. This fully sends Michelle over the edge, and she goes into... She goes to see him and finally realizes he's actually a gigantic sissy, so she knocks him out. She ties him up in the bondage room, and I hope this is going to be like that scene from American Mary. She skips the S&M and goes right for torture. She breaks his ankle and leaves him for the police to find. Now that she's taken out the trash, she switches to girl boss mode. She has a meeting with Jesse Aaron. Then she has one last Hail Mary boardroom meeting. Aaron shows up to fill out the paperwork and fulfill the merger or something. Walter then signs the contract without even having a lawyer look at it first. Whatever. Huge success! So now that she pulled that off, Walter makes her an official partner. Aaron asks to see Michelle alone. Turns out he's aware of her singular interests and is looking for a new dummy mommy.
Maybe a little more kinky.
Yes, mistress.
Oh, good grief. Bound was shot like 99% of Asylum movies. Quick and cheap. Only this time they were probably able to get the movie out even faster because they didn't need to do any visual effects. They beat 50 Shades of Grey to the punch. Bound was released on January 9, 2015, roughly a month before 50 Shades' February theatrical release. Charisma Carpenter played Michelle. She was a cheerleader for the San Diego Chargers before moving to TV. She had a small part in Baywatch, and then the direct-to-video movies, Josh Kirby Time Warrior 1, 2, and 6. She was a cast member on Malibu Shores before taking on the role where most people know her from, Cordelia Chase in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and then later Angel. She's had consistent work in TV and movies, but hasn't had another breakout hit. Still, she's had tons of work, and has seemingly settled in as a very solid character actress. She most likely took the role in Bound because it was so far outside her previous works, and it was a lead. Daniel Baldwin plays Walter, one of the lesser seen of the Baldwin brothers, but he's still a consistently good actor. He usually plays gruff older guys, which he has down to a T. On a humorous note, Baldwin played Carpenter's father, despite being only 10 years older than her. Bryce Draper played Ryan Black, and this was his first movie. His character was an absolute creep, and he played it very effectively. I was really sad to find out he died in 2021 of a heart attack. He was 39, and it looked like he was just getting his movie career started. He did a great job as a villain, and I'm curious to check out the handful of movies he made after this. Looks like his last film was just released. Bound is a unique film in the Asylum's library. I'll give them credit for the film. While 50 Shades was Twilight with S&M in place of vampires, Bound is a straight-up erotic thriller with S&M. They made Ryan very hateable, and initially, Michelle was just overwhelmingly sheltered and naive. Having her come back at the end and take charge honestly surprised me. I was expecting her to win at the end, but not the way they delivered. It really won me over and was what made me want to do the video. If she ended up getting help or pulling some kind of switcheroo into getting Ryan to out himself, I would have booed the film. Instead, it showed how you can only push some people so far. In the end, she finally took control, and while it's not some great twist, it made the film more enjoyable. It reminded me of the old erotic thrillers that used to run non-stop on cable in the 90s, just without that whole erotic part. Another thing the movie had going for it was the soundtrack. It's a variety of alt-rockish songs, and some of them are pretty good. They fit the movie very well, and for the first time in a long time, I was checking out the credits to see who the bands were. Bound. It's a 50 Shades knockoff that is better than the movie it's ripping off. Not that that's that hard to do, but still. It also has better nudity, better ending, and a bonus Baldwin brother.
Your professional life should never involve condoms, Michelle.